Good day, students. Today we are going to study the first term first serve scheduling algorithm. So first term first serve is basically, as the name says, the process which comes first will get the CPU first. The process which comes first will get the CPU first. It's basically a non-preemptive algorithm. Means we have non-preemptive means it doesn't leave the CPU until and unless it finishes up with the processing part. It finishes up with the processing part. So here we have a process. Here we have our questions, and we have 4 processes into it, and the burst time of this processes is mentioned. We are going to assume that all process arrives at time 0. All process arrive at time 0. So now let's begin with CPU scheduling part. For CPU scheduling, the very first thing that we require is require to prepare a Gantt chart. So let's start with preparation of Gantt chart. As we know, it's first come first serve. So the first process that comes in is going to be the first one to get the CPU. So we are supposed to begin on time 0 as we have assumed over here. So we begin from time 0. So the first process which arrives over here, as it's mentioned, it's our P1. It's the first process to arrive. So P1 will be the first to get the CPU. So let's begin with the execution part of P1. How much time does P1 require to complete the execution? It's mentioned right here. Burst time is the time that is required by the process to finish up the processing part. So burst time is the processing time basically. So basically P1 requires 21 time units to complete the processing. So very first, let's allocate a CPU to process P1. It will be executing till 21. So once it reaches 21, it will stop and get out of the CPU. Once the processing of P1 is done, we will go to the next process. The next process in our list is P2. It's P2 right here. So now it's the time for execution of P2, and the time required for execution of P2 is basically 3. Time required for execution is 3. So let's give the CPU to P2. P2 gets the CPU. How much time does it require? It requires 3. So 21 plus 3 is nothing but 24, 22, 23 and 24. So P2 will be executing till 24th time unit. 24th time unit. With this, the execution of P2 is done. So we'll move to the next process in the list, that is P3. So the time required for execution for P3 is 6. So let's give our CPU right here to our process P3. So we'll give P3 the CPU. How much time does it require? It requires mentioned over here, burst time is 6, so it requires 6 units of time. So we'll give him 6. 24 plus 6 is nothing but 30. So he gets 6 units of time. After that, with this, we are done with execution of P3. And the next process on our list is P4. So now it's time to give our CPU to process P4. So let's give it to him. The next process is basically P4. How much time does he require to execute? He requires 2 units of time. So we will give him for 2 units of time. He will get the CPU for 2 units of time. And here it is, 2 units means 30 plus 2, which is nothing but 32. With this, the execution of P4 is done. So all the processes which were given to us are executed. We don't have any other process like P5, P6 to be executed. So our processing part is done, and this is our Gantt chart representation. This is how we have scheduled the CPU. Basically, Gantt chart is a CPU representation, how processes get the processor, how processes get the CPU. This has been represented right here. After this, our task is to find the average waiting time and average turnaround time. So first thing that we are going to do is basically find the turnaround time. We know turnaround time is nothing but completion time minus the arrival time. So let's begin. Our first process was P1. Let's note it down. Second, P2, P3, and P4. So what's the completion time of your process P1 first? So for P1, let's find the completion time. So process P1 started at 0 and stopped at 21. Anywhere else there is P1, P1, no P1, no P1, no P1. So P1 basically completed right here at 21. So 21 is the completion time for P1 minus the arrival time. We have assumed that arrival time to be as time 0. Arrival time to be time 0. So minus 0, which is nothing but 21. Next is P2. P2's completion time. So P2 started at 21 and ended at 24. So 24 is the completion time of P2 minus the arrival time. We have assumed it to be 0. So it's 24. In the same way, find for P3. P3's completion time is 30. So 30 minus the arrival time is 30. Then P4's completion time is 32. 32 minus arrival time is 32. Now it's time to find the average turnaround time. Average turnaround time. So it is basically 21 minus plus 24 plus 30 plus 32 divided by 4, which is nothing but 26.75. 26.75. And then next step is basically to find your waiting time. Next step is basically to find your waiting time. So let's go for waiting time. Waiting time is nothing but turnaround time minus the burst time. So we have to find waiting time for P1, P2, P3 and P4. So let's see what is the turnaround time of P1. Here we go. Turnaround time of P1 is 21. So 21 minus the burst time of P1, which is nothing but 21 right here, mentioned right here. So that's the burst time. Let's just P2. P2's turnaround time is 24. So 24 minus P2's burst time is 3. So we'll have 3 right here. Then P3's turnaround time is 30. So we'll have 30 minus P3's burst time is 6. Then we'll have P4's turnaround time is 32. Then we have P4's burst time, that is 2. So here we have, let's calculate. After calculations, we get this as our answers. Now it's average waiting time, which is nothing but 0 plus 21 plus 24 plus 30 divided by 4, which is nothing but 18.75 units of time. That's it. We are done with our very first scheduling algorithm, that is first come, first serve.